Hi, this is my detailed technical description of my automation configuration for my bearded dragon. The primary target here is if anybody needs to somehow recover or repair this if something happens to me. But it might be of interest to people in general for how I've set this up. So here we go. So I've got Home Assistant Has.io running as my overall sort of automation management thing, specifically to get me access to Node-RED. Node-RED is a visual programming thing in which I did all the stuff for Waffles. Waffles is our bearded dragon. The reason I did it in the visual programming thing is because I thought that my children might want to help me. They turn out to have no interest, but whatever. Okay, so measurements. So we've got a poll that runs every 30 seconds that pulls from the sensor, and then it sends to this thing that just mucks about with the payload a bit to make sure that it's in the right format for the InfluxDB module, and that sends it to InfluxDB. The InfluxDB is local. It is literally running on the Home Assistant machine itself. The Home Assistant machine is a VM on one of my Linux boxes. Normally you wouldn't do that. Normally you'd have InfluxDB running on like a separate host and port, like a container somewhere probably. Just happens to be not how I did it. InfluxDB is super easy to set up as a service, and I just stuck it into the VM. Probably should have done it that way. That's how it worked out. But this is how we get all of the temp and humidity and light switch data into InfluxDB, which then gets used later. This thing every 2 minutes. There we go. Yay, every 2 minutes. This thing every 2 minutes pulls data out of InfluxDB, and one way or another, this is my humidity check, and it's get the mean values over a 5-minute period for the last 7 days from the humidity, from all of the humidity things. All of these are the same thing. That's the temperature, that's the lights, and that's the hot side target, which we'll get to in a minute. But all of them are means. All of them are a mean over 5 minutes. This is super important because if you don't do the reason that I put InfluxDB in here in the first place, rather than just using the normal sort of store data stuff that Node comes with, is that if you check your temperatures, I think I'm running every 30 seconds or something, or even every couple of minutes. Over a 7-day period, you end up with many data points, and the Node-RED UI was just falling over. Just to be clear what I'm talking about, this is the generated UI from Node-RED. This is a message that I pushed to the UI, and then these are the graphs. And the graphs are done using the normal Node-RED mechanisms. And like I said, if you don't do the 5-minute mean, because I think I've got it every 30 seconds, if you don't do the 5-minute mean, you try to do it every 30 seconds, there's too many data points, this explodes. Like this would take minutes to load until I did the InfluxDB thing. Okay, back to Node-RED. So yeah, so each of these pulls stuff out of NodeDB, and then this is a little script that just is that the whole thing. Make sure you can see the whole thing. There we go. This is a little script that just converts the structure of the data as it comes out of Node-RED to the structure of the data that the charts are expecting on their way in. I don't remember much about how this works at all, but it looks like it's just like moving things into the X and Y slots. I don't think it's that complicated. It's been a while, I don't remember. It's called multi-influx to chart because there are, for example, more than one humidity chart and humidity sensors, and the humidity chart has all of them. And then we stuff them in the humidity chart, and it only uses the first 3 colors because there's only 3 of them, but you get the basic idea. This is here just because I had all my UI stuff on this page anyway, and it's just an IMG thing pointing to my own personal web space on, yeah, there we go. It's just an IMG pointing to my own personal web space, and the reason for it is that I ended up making waffles.digitalkingdom.org as a pointer to my UI page, and my partner was like, "There's no picture of her. You can't have waffles.digitalkingdom.org and not have a picture of Waffles." So I had to put a picture. She was quite insistent. How this works, by the way, you won't normally be able to see your Node-RED UI from outside your network. At least I hope not. That would be terrible, terrible, and bad. What I actually though, for digitalkingdom.org, I have an HA proxy set up already, and the HA proxy I just reconfigured it to point to only the one directory for the UI. And so it's pretty safe because there's no controls on here or anything. There's nothing read-write. There's not really anything anyone can do. Okay. This Waffle status page. So this is an HTTP endpoint at /UI/status. So like if you go to waffles.org /UI/status, that is. Oh, right. Sorry, I configured it so that it would just be status. There we go. So in here, so if you're going to digitalkingdom.org, it's just status. If you go to the UI, it's UI/status, whatever. It doesn't matter. All this does is print a timestamp, the last time it was updated, and the status. And this, in turn, is used by a cron job. This is the whole Waffles monitoring setup. So I've got a cron job that runs this script. The script pulls the status endpoint. If the temperature is out of range, then the status will have way in it because it says way off, or way high or way low or something like that. If that timestamp is more than 30 minutes old, it also counts as bad. If anything counts as bad, then it sends a cranky email to Waffles Alerts. If nothing counts as bad, it activates Deadman Snitch. Deadman Snitch is a web service that lets you. Okay, apparently I don't have that. Apparently I don't have that in LastPass. Deadman Switch is a web service that notices when something happens, and if it stops happening, it alerts. There. Now it's in LastPass. Okay. So this is the Deadman Snitch for Waffles, and as long as it, I want to say that it, I want to say that it's every, like if it's not happened for an hour, it will send an email. What are the settings? Basic. Yes, it's the same thing. Waffles alerts at realm.pagerduty.com, which is Waffles' PagerDuty site, and it's an hour. Yes. PagerDuty. Are we on the correct? There we go. So here's the, yeah, so here you can see what happens. So if the temperature goes way out of bounds, or if Deadman Snitch sees that the cron job hasn't checked in for a while, then I get an alert. I literally get paged. I mean, I don't have a pager, but it's on my phone, right? But you get the idea. But that is how we make sure that the automation is still running, which is kind of important because, well, the lights are not quite bright enough to bake my lizard. I checked if you just leave them on, they never get hot enough to actually be damaging to her. It's still, still not great to like have it running all night or to have it turned off all day or whatever. Like, we have fancy lights in the Bearded Dragon's cage for a reason, and having them not work is not awesome. Okay, here's the really complicated part. I actually should drop this entire alert mail thing because it's now handled by Deadman Snitch, but I'm not going to worry about that right now. But this this just takes the
We gotta go. We gotta go.
this just takes the temperature and status and sends an alert mail. Where's the actual alert mail thing? There's the actual alert mail thing. It sends to Waffles alerts at realm.page.com, and it uses Gmail to do it. Actually, I'm not sure why I did it that way since I have my own mail server, but here we are. But yes, my bearded dragon has her own email address that we don't check, and her own PagerDuty account. So here's how we actually manage her stuff. So we get a timestamp every like 30 seconds or something, and we check if it's day or night using start and end times. And if it's day, we're on this path. If it's night, we're on that path. If it's day, it's UV on. If it's night, it's UV off. Then we take the temperature from the hot side, which we could pull out of Intellect DB, but we don't. This thing where it sets the location that's used by the mail functionality downstream. Now, it used to be that I was trying to do complicated stuff with multiple locations where it would like try to decide what to set the temperature to based on like the cold side and the hot side. And that's part of why this exists, is for historical reasons that I was using message.location for things. Don't worry about it. It's kind of old school. It's not really used anymore. This sets cur temp to the payload just so that, because payload keeps getting overwritten, and it's just so that we have something that won't get overwritten by functions downstream. Now this is the complicated bit. As you may have noticed, there's a smooth curve here. I went to great lengths to make that curve be smooth. This is the target temperature curve. And the reason was that I was trying to kind of do day and night, which is how you do it if you have like mechanical switches, right? And I was ending up with these like silly discontinuities where it would decide that it was daytime and suddenly like jump her temperature by like 20 degrees all at once. Or decide that it was nighttime and suddenly everything turns off and it gets super cold. And it just seemed like that's not how day-night cycles work, right? Like it doesn't seem fun for her. So what we actually do here is we take the current minute of the day, right? So hours times 60 equals minutes. And then we coerce it to being a 0 to 360 value. So we basically divide the day into 360 parts, and then so Kermin in degrees is the the number out of from 0 to 360 out of the day, right? So midnight is both 0 and 360. Then we convert it into radians because this is a sine wave. So at this point, so radians is like we treat the day as a circle. And this is the radians of our position on that circle with midnight at the top of the circle, I guess. I don't know. Trig was never my strong suit. Oh, hey. I completely forgot about this URL. Where's that? Huh. Okay. I apparently wrote some stuff. All right, cool. Anyway, we add 85 to the value. So this is just transformation of a basic sine wave, right? I don't remember how this transformation works exactly, honestly, I gotta tell you, but the actual upshot is what it says here, which is that it's 70 degrees at midnight. Okay, so it's taking the sine, which gets you a value from 0 to 1, no, minus 1 to 1? Yes, minus 1 to 1, multiply it by 15, and then adding 85, and so that gives you a value. So this part is a value from minus 15 to plus 15, and then we add 85, and that gives us a value from 70 to 100, which is what we want. Max value at noon, min value at midnight. Boy, it took me a while to figure this out. But that's sort of that's the heart of the overall automation. That gets us, so what this function actually does is it gets us the target temperature, which we set to target temperature on the message, and then the payload we're setting to like some textual stuff that's going to be used down the line for setting up the status and doing the mail. and then we store the target temperature in InfluxDB, and then this thing decides what to do based on the target temperature. Right? Brief side comment here. We have some absolute, like, shit's gone way out of bounds here, which is that we have a cold temperature and the hot temperature, and if either of them are above 110 or below 60, then something has gone seriously wrong, and we just have a path through here that doesn't even go through this section, just to make it super simple, which is just, unconditionally. Like, so this is all relative to target temperature, right? This is in case the target temperature went insane. So even if the target temperature breaks, if it's above 110, or if either of the cold or hot temperatures are above 110 or below 60, then we freak out. But then this thing feeds into way above, way below, right? And then, depending on what that is, right, if it's way below, we turn both the heat bulb and the heat emitter on. If it's above, we turn them off. If it's below, we turn... if it's way below, we turn them both on and we send an email. If it's way above, we turn them both off and we send an email. If it's above, we turn them both off. If it's below, we turn on a heat thingy. If it's below, we turn on either both of them, or if it's both of them, it's the daytime, or it's nighttime, just the heat emitter. I've played with this for a while. It seems to work pretty well. If we're in the sweet spot, that is, if we're in, if we're very near the target temperature, then in the daytime, we turn the heat lamp on because warmth in the day is good. At nighttime, we don't change anything. Actually, it feels like if it's nighttime, we should just turn them both off, but whatever. I'll maybe look at that. And then this whole trail here takes the information that we pulled from whichever one we came out of and uses it to generate the status message that becomes this thing up here. Okay, so that's how all the Node-RED stuff works. I'm going to go into a little bit of the technical details of how I'm running Hass.io itself. So I've got some Linux systems in my house that are sitting on the net anyway. I'm using Linux KVM, also known as libvirt or virus-h, or it's actually running QEMU underneath to run this VM. The actual details are on GitHub, publicly on GitHub, of how I build and run the VM. There's basically there's this build.sh script which builds a Debian 10 VM from scratch and then makes a bunch of modifications to it, including installing Hass.io and installing and running InfluxDB, and then all that really happens in this Hass.io run.sh script, which runs after first startup. And again, this is all on GitHub. The sort of kind of important bit is that it mounts a couple of backup directories, right? And then it runs backups on the VM itself. These backups run, and then they push into the backup directories, which are these two directories here, which is the Hass.io backups and the InfluxDB backups. And that's what's actually used. If you rebuild the VM, it actually just destroys everything, rebuilds, and then runs, and then pushes those backups into place. Like, you need the backups to actually restore my configuration. Having said that, like, if you really didn't have the backups and were actually just doing it from scratch, the only thing that you would actually need, I was going to say you'd be okay, but no, you wouldn't. You'd lose the flows. I have backups of the flows in Dropbox, but whatever. Anyway, the backups are picked up by my normal backup mechanisms that cover my entire servers, right? So the backups are no problem to grab. I think that covers it. Yep. Okay, cool. So that's my configuration.